Saturday's Women's March started in Washington, but millions demonstrated on all 7 continents. Trump's response on Twitter has been mixed, with the latest saying he recognizes the rights of people to express their views. Coming up in the next hour, we're going to have one of the organizers of the Canadian Women's March on Washington, Marissa McTasney.
Millions took part in this weekend's Women's March in cities across America. We speak with the organizer who brought hundreds of Canadians to D.C. and find out what's next for them. Well, they gathered from near and far to make their message of equality heard, and with the streets packed with protesters, of all demographics and ages, that message rang loud and clear. Protesters gathered in cities right across the United States, Canada, and the world to stand up for women's rights in the face of a Donald Trump presidency. If you were on social media at all this weekend, you saw these pictures. An estimated 2.9 million people marched across the U.S., which would make this the largest protest in U.S. history. But not everyone in attendance was American. The Canadian Women's March on Washington sent busloads of Canucks down to D.C. to join in. So here to share her experience with us is one of the organizers of the Canadian Women's March on Washington, Marissa McTasney. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, before we get to what it was like, I wanted you to tell us why you did it.
There's 2 reasons that I wanted to get involved. So one, I was very devastated about the election and the outcome. I was very excited to see a woman become the president of the United States, and I thought it was a done deal. And as a mother of an 11-year-old daughter, really concerned that the rhetoric of the election will increase the sexual assault rates that are already too high. The norm should be 0, and it's much higher than that, as we all know. And second, I'm a businesswoman, and I have a global company, and we do business around the world, and our relations with the U.S. are very important.
So tell us about the atmosphere then. So you take these busloads of Canadians down. How many in total were there?
There was about 600 Canadians that we knew of. There were more. We bumped into Nev Campbell. She went there independently with her family, and she said, "Here's my people, the Canadians." So that was wonderful. But yeah, there were 11 buses of people that slept on a bus for 24 hours to march in the United States. And it was a treacherous bus ride. We had a bus breakdown. We were waiting in the cold. So it wasn't for the faint of heart, that's for sure.
What was the atmosphere like when you walked off the buses? For those of us who couldn't be there and just saw the pictures either on the news or social media.
Even at the bus stops, there were loads of buses. And when people realized the Canadians coming, you know things are bad when the Canadians are showing up.
In numbers.
In numbers.
The last time that happened, they ended up with the White House.
But it was wonderful, and people were screaming and shouting and hugging us, saying thank you. And for me, the really emotional part is when they couldn't even get the words out, when we would see women and they had tears in their eyes and just saying thank you so much. The gratitude we felt, it really felt like a sisterhood and of us all coming together in solidarity.
Did you bring your daughter with you?
I did not. I was there for the whole week, and I couldn't take her out of school based on the other meetings I had. And I did go to the inauguration as well. I didn't stay at the inauguration, but I did pop in and get a feel for the flavor of the event.
What was the relationship like between the protesters and the police?
The day of the inauguration, it was pretty rough. It was nothing that I've ever seen before, with a lot of protests, a lot of riots. We actually went to the Canadian Embassy, and when we saw that maple leaf, I tell you, we couldn't get in there fast enough because it was a really volatile environment. The Women's March on Washington, though, it was so peaceful. There were some people singing and there were chants, but overall, it was a peaceful, beautiful demonstration. Nothing like the day before.
How did Americans react to you as Canadians? We have 2 very different leaders, governing our country. So what were some of the conversations you had with them?
A lot of them is how we could work together and come together and network. So because I was there for the week, I got to have a lot of one-on-one conversations. And one of the women I met, Shyra Arrington, she is a board member of the National Congress of Black Women, and she wants to come to Canada and see how we can bring that up here. And so I'm making those connections for her. So it was about connections and progress, definitely.
We know the numbers coming out of this election. A large number of women did vote for Donald Trump. How do you work with women who are not only Republican but Trump supporters moving forward? What conversations do you have?
A lot of the conversations were why, and they were some great conversations. We bumped into a Republican who is a military lawyer, and so she was really well versed as to why she had voted for Trump, and it comes down to economic security for their country. And they were able to overlook his character.
All right, so very quickly then, what's next for the Canadian women's movement?
We have a call to action letter on our website, canadianwomenmarch.ca, and I would encourage everybody to download it, read it, edit it, that will make you feel more comfortable, and send it to your local government officials. And we'll have more to follow as time goes on and we keep these discussions open.
All right, we're on a Monday. We're on day one, so lots of conversations to happen going ahead. Marissa McTasney, thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
All right.